Centuries ago and even into the early 1930s, families solely lived off of the land, and they grew their own food and hunted wild game that lived in our mountains and made a lot of their own clothing. We had a very close society in which our people lived. There was a kinship of families looking out for each other, checking in on one another because of the close proximity in which they lived. And so home visiting existed decades ago and centuries ago in a very traditional manner. As families became more modernized, I think a lot of that separation and isolation began, in which you had to become more independent in how you took care of your family. They really had to navigate the system themselves, and there really isn't a system that we have to go through.
Our community is unique because in the San Francisco Bay Area, over 200 tribes are represented from all over the country. A lot of that is because of the relocation era, right? The governmental policies that moved families away from reservation communities. What we saw was a cultural disconnect. One of the needs was the reassurance that their children are developing just fine. Sometimes when you're a new parent and you don't have family around you and you've never been through this before, it can be really confusing and scary to know if you're doing things correctly.
Before tribal home visiting, I feel like the component of child development, what the parents should be expecting, that one-on-one social support was lacking. There really wasn't any resources, someone that could go into the home and have that one-on-one visit with that family and see what their needs were and really be their connection to resources within the community.
There was really a need for parenting and help with parenting that connected to our way of life. And so home visiting has really helped bring that connection together and allowed us to provide services in a way that connects us to our culture and our way of life. And that's something that's always been there for us. It's in our blood.
One of the biggest needs that was recognized was families really needed to hear that it's okay to need support to raise your kids, and it's okay to need someone to help provide education to you and to help teach you about child development. Families just needed to hear that it was okay to not automatically know everything already.
What we've heard from our community in our needs assessment that was done before implementation of our home visiting program, they talked a lot about teen parents needing support. They were seeing a lot of teen mothers and fathers needing to find a way to hold those families in a caring way so that they felt confident and effective to raise their children in our urban community.
The needs that families had that were not being met prior to home visiting would have included a variety of things, from not being able to have any questions answered about the development of the child, the mother's health, the importance of parent-child interactions. A lot of services were provided once a child started Head Start. So from birth to 3, there really was not a whole lot of service available. A lot of families were really on their own. They didn't have anyone to pick up the phone and call if they had a question that really could impact that child's outcome.
To connect responsive, evidence-based home visiting with the cultural and traditional practices of tribal people, the Administration for Children and Families provides American Indian and Alaska Native communities a means of building a bridge and filling system gaps. This bridge, the Tribal Maternal Infant and Early Childhood Home Visiting Program, allows both urban and non-urban tribal organizations to nurture and build upon existing traditional strengths from their own communities. Tribal home visiting supports and strengthens tribes, tribal organizations, and urban Indian organizations in promoting the well-being of very young children and their families through strategies that are respectful to Native cultures.
Accomplishments within our home visiting program have been the enrollment numbers that we've seen. So a lot of that has been word of mouth. You know, people talk about the services that they're getting, and there's been a lot of positive feedback. And so that has prompted a lot of other individuals who may not have sought the services to at least gain interest. We've had a lot of buy-in from our tribal leadership. Our governor and his staff, as well as the war chief, have really met us halfway in understanding the nature of our work and its importance and relevance to helping our families.
Another significant accomplishment is that almost all of the 12 tribal communities in Michigan have some sort of home visiting services.
I think our most successful accomplishment has been helping to actually move community norms around what the expectation is for parents around understanding child development. I feel like we're really starting to kind of change people's perception of what kind of education and support parents typically need.
The San Francisco Bay Area is a special place in terms of Native activism because of the relocation area, because of policies that were imposed upon us. And so there are a number of Native serving agencies in the Bay Area, and we've been able to connect with all of them. We were a missing piece. We truly were, because most of them serve families, but many of them didn't have the resources or that focus of actually going into the homes, going into that sacred space with the families. And we have been that next puzzle piece that really aims to serve a family holistically.
Our program has been doing home visiting within tribal communities for about 20 years now, and we have seen a reduction in infant mortality within the tribal service population that we serve, and so that's a really big deal for us. We have some special needs within our communities that weren't being met, children with special needs and families with special needs. And so home visiting has really helped to connect those children and families with special needs to appropriate services that can help them.
I'm proud of my families for committing to the home visiting program and reaching out for that help and asking for the support. I think it takes a lot of courage to allow someone to enter your home, to kind of let your guard down, to be vulnerable, to be able to let your home visiting person know that you need help. I think it's kind of a stigma that when your child's born, you know everything about parenting. And if you don't know something, sometimes it's hard to reach out for that help.
We're really proud of the fact that families are enjoying this program and wanting to stay engaged with it, of the work that we do in setting goals with families where they're deciding for themselves what direction they want to see their lives move in and what they want for their children, and they're proactively working towards that instead of just reacting to the circumstances that life is throwing at them.
Also, just being able to work with some of the single fathers that we have. We have a mix of families that we serve, and so knowing that we have fathers within our community that have an interest in understanding the importance of their role and really seeking out that support, I think also speaks volumes for the type of outreach that we're doing within our community.
That connection to our ancestors and their teachings about how we are to live and how we are to raise our children and how we are to raise our families is something that's really significant. It's a healing process that our communities participate in tribal home visiting. Bridging those gaps and building those connections is significant, and you can watch a family grow and blossom.
Through the support of grants provided by ACF, urban and non-urban tribal organizations can gain knowledge of evidence-based home visiting services that impact families in a positive way. This partnership between tribal communities and with ACF has led to healthier children and hopeful parents, and has inspired caregivers and communities to come together to support our youngest, the future leaders of our tribes.
The work that our home visitors are doing with families now is helping to reduce the effects of traumatic childhood experiences. It's building resiliency in families so that our next generation of Native children will live to be older elders and have more time to pass along traditions and culture to the ones that come behind them.
Tribal home visiting is really a core service. It's like a Head Start program or a diabetes prevention program, in that it's a core necessary service for tribal communities to really help our families grow and develop to the greatest extent possible. It's important for tribal leadership to recognize that as well, the importance of tribal home visiting and how it contributes to the overall health of the community by providing support for our babies and our families.
The idea of a community coming together to support a woman and her family during pregnancy, after pregnancy, as their child develops, this is a traditional concept. So we're not coming into these homes and telling parents how to raise their children. We're building upon the strengths that they have. We're providing supports that they may not have access to, and we're being a supportive presence. We are that person to praise and to uplift and to encourage them in the hardest job that they'll ever have to do as they raise their families. The opportunity to bring these services to them will only make our communities and our tribal nations stronger.